Welcome to the earthvox podcast. The earthvox podcast. earthvox podcast.
Now I think we are streaming live with audio even. Imagine that. What a crazy concept. God, I'm super pissed. Attempt number 2 so far this morning. Thank you for joining me. I'm gonna try to not let it ruin my day. As I was saying, no, I nuked everything. You have no frame of reference. I got about 8 minutes in and then Mrs. Earthvox told me there was no sound. So perfect. That problem resolved now. Still no stream on Rumble, but we are live on YouTube and X and Twitch. I don't understand why Rumble has to be difficult. I learned about 5 minutes before we started that I need to create a template. No other streaming platform, including X, which, I mean, X is new to the game in terms of video content. Not even X needs, so I think I love Rumble for their efforts to be, you know, what they like to call parallel economy. I say with air quotes. But I think they're trying to drag people into this paying to stream model, which is, I mean, that's why Riverside does the same thing. I'm a Riverside customer. But I recently listened to an interview with the owner or the CEO, Chris Pavlovsky, who was talking about all of the challenges surrounding, you know, competing in the video sharing, hosting, whatever space. And I run across things like this. And I think dude, get out of your own way. You're creating a tremendous barrier to entry by not letting people just copy and paste their stream URLs to stream to their channels that I've already made a channel and an account and done all of those things, posted videos independently. But for some reason, the streaming just isn't working out, and I'm beginning to think that it's not just user error. I'm starting to think that they're making it deliberately difficult because they want to bring people in to get their exclusive rights to their content. Because I ran a test stream a couple of weeks ago from Rumble and conducted it the same way I would normally do it from Riverside, which you're seeing now. And it wouldn't go to YouTube, understandably so. They're a YouTube competitor. But this neutral stream hosting software that I'm using shouldn't be discouraged by Rumble Studios. However, it is. But it's not going to discourage me. Nor is recording the first 10 minutes of a podcast with no audio will discourage me. It will get me pretty pissed off, though. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of exciting things happening in the news this week. Not in my opinion. There were plenty of things that people got upset about. Apparently, there's a new signal gate. Pete Hegseth is again in trouble for something that he sent to, I guess, family members, which is also kind of twisted up because I guess one of his brother of his is also his lawyer. And you can't really rely on the mainstream media to be honest with you about anything, and especially not when it pertains to Donald Trump or anyone conservative or anything that may come from religion or nuclear family or solid moral values at all. We're just being constantly shoved in this direction of decay and degeneracy. I was talking to my wife last night about Twitch streamers, gamers and how enormous the barrier to entry is to get into that line of work. In order to do anything monetarily on Twitch, you have to, I think you have to spend, let's see, what are the requirements to be a Twitch partner? Because I was telling her it's something like 40 hours a week. No, the hourly requirements. I don't know why this always has to be so difficult. To be eligible for Twitch partnership, you need to first complete the Path to Partner achievement, which requires streaming for 25 hours on 12 different days and maintaining an average of 75 concurrent viewers over a 30-day period. In addition, for the 2 months prior to applying, you need to have at least 8 individual streams meeting the 75 average viewer requirement. Stream for a total of at least 25 hours within a 30-day period. I don't think this is the same. I don't think this is answering the question that I really have. How many hours per day do you have to stream on Twitch to have subscribers? It's something like 40 hours a week. It's a tremendous burden, and it basically means that you can't have a job and work towards being a streamer as your source of income or supplemental income. And I just wonder how many people game all day long because they have this dream of being a gainfully employed Twitch streamer, or having streaming be their gainful employment while they rot in their basement striving after this goal, not going to find a real job. But the worst part is creating all of this free content for Twitch to attract viewers to their platform and not pay you a dime for. Maybe you can only stream for 10 hours on the weekend or 1 hour a night. That's not going to get you there. So it really perpetuates the decay of society. It shouldn't be so difficult, but it's carefully crafted. It's carefully crafted to curate as much content as they can to keep viewers engaged on their platform while not paying the people that are actually creating the content. And it really kind of points to a bigger problem in the culture. And that is the corporate oligarchy completely disinterested in investing in humanity. I mean, this is why we have things, political discussions about universal basic income. Because corporations want to completely automate everything so that they don't have to pay any people to do the work for them. The disconnect happens when they realize that if there's no people to buy the stuff that they're manufacturing, they don't have a business to begin with. But they don't want to think in those sort of realistic terms, because they just have to focus on running the business 1 quarter at a time. You got to show the board that you are increasing profits every 3 months, and hopefully you won't get fired because you've got that cushy CEO gig making $20 million a year and you'd like to keep that going. And by the time the actions of these CEOs and the board of directors and the largest shareholders, often owned by BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard, have destroyed the communities that they operate within, well, that CEO will be long dead. And he won't have to worry about it. And when you think of what that means for a culture, the obstacles that we're facing become a lot more clear, and so do their solutions. One thing that I noticed discussed pretty heavily this week was the nuclear family and its place in the culture and how it's widely demonized. And it may not be immediately obvious that it's being demonized. But whether it's deliberate or it's a consequence of other factors, we have to acknowledge how damaging it is to humanity. I was fantasizing about beating up my beating up my daughter's boyfriends, and I don't remember why. I don't remember what got me thinking about that. My girlfriends, my daughters don't have boyfriends. They're far too young. And maybe it was Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Oh, he's got a fourth name, by the way. Isn't it interesting how all of these details keep trickling out week after week? Now he's Kilmar Abrego Armando Garcia. So, write that down. That info may come in handy one day, but probably not. Because it was, as we discussed last week, it was revealed that he was a wife beater. He beat his wife all the time, left bruises on her. And I thought, what would I do if I found bruises on my, because clearly there's no father in this situation. They're probably back in, I don't know where Mrs. Garcia came from, but Kilmar's dad is probably gone, or who knows, maybe he encourages this kind of behavior. And that's kind of the point. I don't think that I have to really worry about my daughters being in relationships with abusive men, because I think the people that they are attracted to are sort of a reflection or an echo of what they grew up around. And if someone is beating my daughters in their relationship, that's a failure of parenting. That's my failure. But I think abuse comes from unstable homes. Stressed out parents that have to drink to ease the pain and then act out. It's not an excuse. It's inexcusable. This is why it happens. An instability in the home comes from poverty. I can't tell you how many people I've had conversations with about their relationships in confidence, where I realize that ultimately the problems are stemming from not having enough money. Both parents have to go to work. They have to pay a sitter, a nanny. They have to pay for daycare of some kind for their children. And that creates a lot of stress. But why do we have poverty? We have poverty because the corporations don't want to invest in humanity. They want to hoard it all for themselves. And apparently you can't be a conservative and have these points of view. And this is the scam of the two-party system. You can't call yourself a conservative and also believe in the corruption of capitalism. And how long can a company operate under the mandate of quarterly profits every quarter? Quarterly profits every quarter into the future, infinitely. No excuses. You can't just be a company and stay a certain size and provide a good product and provide good jobs and just exist. Seems overboard. So what do we have? We have a decay in the quality. We have a decay in the workplace, the quality of work, the quality of life offered to the employees. And the very obvious impacts that it has on the home. Because corporations don't want to pay their employees a wage that allows for a solid family unit anymore. Both parents have to work, and then your child is being raised by the government, essentially, state schools or daycare, some random person who you probably don't know. They probably don't share all of your values. Maybe they do. You hope they do. Because you and your husband or wife have to go to work. But these places that you're working for, they don't care if you can buy a home. They say rent an apartment, rent a studio. I mean, you think about how much industry exists in a place like New York. How many businesses operate in New York and the tremendous wealth that those businesses are pulling in. And then how expensive it is to live in New York. And the tiny little shoebox of an apartment you can afford on a monthly rent that would probably pay the mortgage in this house. They don't care if you can own a car. They say take the bus or the tram or walk. Ride your bike. Why? Because it's good for the environment. Or because we don't pay you well enough to own a car, but we still want you to come to work. They don't care if you can afford to have kids. They say get an abortion. I mean, they don't even care if you can afford food. They say get on food stamps. Let the government that you pay taxes to subsidize us paying you a wage that is below the poverty line. And Walmart, actually, I don't know if this is still true, but they used to include information in the onboarding packets on how to apply for food stamps. But what else do? They also give you a little card that says 10% off everything that you buy at Walmart because you're a Walmart employee and we care about you. So we'll give you 10%. We'll knock down our profits on you, Walmart employee. We'll knock those down to 90% on the markup so that we can give you 10% off on all your purchases. So that when you go apply for food stamps, you come back and spend all of those food stamps at Walmart because we give you that 10% off. And how long till they start building apartment buildings on top of those Walmart supercenters and say, hey, you can all live right on right on top of your workplace. Ain't even got to worry about it. We'll give you a really good deal. And by the way, here's a packet on how to apply for housing assistance from the government. Because not only do we not make enough money from just doing business in the lands that we do business in, we also need to lobby and manipulate the government to funnel as much tax revenue into our private business as we can. Because that's the beauty of the corporate world today. So people are scared to have kids. People are scared to move out of their parents' houses. And this isn't something that's widely discussed on the right, and it bothers me. Because it shouldn't be a left or a right issue. I mean, it wasn't a left or a right issue in the 50s. It's what you did. You met a girl, you got married, You had a couple of kids. She stayed home, took care of the house, took care of the kids, took care of the dogs. And you went to work and earned a paycheck that would allow you, as a teacher or a policeman or a firefighter, to pay all the bills, to have a social life, and to put your kids through college. But not anymore. Why? Because we got to show profits every single quarter. That's why. I mean, that's why the mega businesses were allowed to stay open through COVID while all the small businesses had to close down. I wonder what percentage, don't worry, I'm not going to try to look it up in the middle of the show. I wonder what percentage of the middle class was small business owners. I wonder how much the COVID pandemic shrunk the middle class, while it was simultaneously the largest transfer of wealth from the lower and middle classes to the elites. Trillions of dollars. But that was 5 years ago. We don't want to talk about it anymore. Maybe Fauci will see some repercussions, some consequences. Maybe not. Joe Biden gave him a blanket pardon going back to 2014, so we just have to cross our fingers. Now let's get into the news. I wanted to start by, I don't know, I'm feeling real conspiracy theorist here. And I'll talk about the UK blocking out the sun too. With a full-blown Alex Jones appearance, or InfoWars appearance, I should say. But China isn't, I mean, the reason these tariffs and China's operation in the World Trade Organization really piques my interest is because China has enabled the corporations of this country to offshore all of their manufacturing, gut manufacturing in the United States, and allow these massive corporations to increase their profit margins while not investing anything in their countries of origin. Now, I'm not talking about the legality of the whole ordeal. I'm talking about the tragedy that these corporations are foisting upon us because they don't care. And if we had a transparent media that would tell us that these corporations were doing the things that they were doing, well, then we could behave the way we behaved with Bud Lights, the way the gamers can behave with these massive gaming companies that release substandard, broken products for top dollar and then go, oh, we're sorry, just hang around for months while we still fix it after we've taken your money, after we've taken your pre-orders. They pay no consequences for these corrupt business practices. And if these issues were raised to the public in an urgent way, the way they should be, the way I'm trying to do now, then we could vote with our wallets. And we wouldn't have to advocate for government regulations. We wouldn't have to advocate for tariffs to punish these companies and force them to bring their manufacturing back to the United States. We could hold them accountable by saying, hey, if you're going to screw us all over, we're not going to buy your shitty garbage from China. And that's why I wanted to start by covering this very sensational, maybe not sensational, but very interesting, at the least, story about alleged efforts to decouple from China. From C Reason on X, they write, game over. The CCP decoupling is underway. By Rod Martin, founder and CEO of Martin Capital. For those worried about the tariff impact on America and the world, please put your mind at ease and read this thread. What you're not hearing. The Chinese cannot replace the US market. Without it, the Chinese economy collapses. So why aren't we hearing about this? We're not hearing about this because, as I've mentioned many times before, the companies that manufacture all of their garbage in China also own many of our media outlets through various avenues. So they don't want a bunch of political pundits talking about how wonderful it is that Trump is tariffing the crap out of the Chinese, because they don't want to have to move their factories back to the United States and create good paying jobs for Americans. Donald Trump says, okay, if you're not going to do that, you're going to pay a premium to import all of your Chinese garbage into our country. And since they control all of those news organizations, they're going to try to make it sound like these tariffs are a bad thing. And that's all you've been hearing about, right? Oh, things are so expensive. Oh, this is going to be so bad for the American people. You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. We're going to have to endure some hardship, and we deserve it. Because we haven't been paying attention. We haven't been holding these companies accountable. So it's going to hurt for a little while. Hopefully this thread puts your mind at ease. It continues. China's entire economic miracle was built on one thing: being America's cheap manufacturing hub. The quote, Chinese miracle playbook was simple. Open markets to the West, offer dirt cheap labor, ignore safety standards and environmental standards, by the way, and let Western companies rake in profits. This worked for decades. But China forgot something crucial. Others can do this too. The massive miscalculation being Beijing thought the American leaders they made rich would protect them forever, and they sure have been trying hard. They believed these corporate puppet masters would never let the US stand up to China. Wrong. Along came Donald Trump, who owes them nothing. US exports to China are $143.5 billion. It's no small number. But Chinese imports to the United States are $438.9 billion. They flood our markets, he writes, while closing or restricting their markets. But Trump said no more. Meanwhile, countries like India, Vietnam, and Bangladesh are celebrating. They're ready to take China's place and open their markets to the US, and Trump's willing to deal. Here's what the media, he blends enemy and media into one word. I like it. I'm a fan of it. Here's what they won't tell you. Chinese exporters are panicking, abandoning shipments mid-voyage. Factory orders are frozen. Container volume is down 90%. And this is just the beginning. China can't replace the US market that made it rich, because what do they call it? We're the premier consumer economy. This is why Trump has so much power with trade and tariffs. Reports are flooding in of factories shutting down, Amazon canceling orders, stores closing, warehouses overflowing. I think but prices are also going up. Why? Because the companies making this garbage want consumers to feel the squeeze so that they point a finger at Donald Trump. This is one of the core problems with operating 3 months at a time. And this is one of the massive advantages that the CCP has over the American capitalist economic system. They can conduct business looking 10 years into the future. Most of the CEOs in this country only conduct business 3 months at a time. What can I do in the next 3 months to show profits at the end of the quarter? Did I do it? Okay, great. What can I do in the following 3 months to create profits in the following quarter? Great, let's do that. Whatever we have to do. Cut wages, crack the whip on our employees, cut quality, embarrass and disrespect our customers, and rip them off at the same time. I mean, have you ever done that? It drives me crazy. I bought a bunch of shirts from Old Navy online because they were on sale. Or I should say my wife bought them for me. But they were great. They were soft. They fit well. They were long. They weren't always riding up. And I thought, these are great. Buy some more of those. The next run of shirts, terrible. Shrunk way down to tiny sizes. Weren't long, were small. I mean, they were probably, and I mean, how often do you come across this? You buy something, it's great. You use the shit out of it. Then it breaks or wears out after however many years. I mean, you can decide, wow, this was a really great thing. I'm going to go out and buy another one. And then what happens? The replacement that you bought is a piece of garbage. Because the company's got to keep showing those increased profits quarter over quarter. I don't know what the solution is, but it drives me crazy. Back to the Post, the house of cards is falling, but the enemy media gives you nothing but Chinese propaganda. And then shares this article from Time. The headline, Why China Can't Win a Trade War. Crucial fact. America buys 3 times more than Japan, China's next biggest customer. 3 times more than Japan. I mean, strictly from a population standpoint, that makes sense. Without us, they're finished. And they were already on the ropes. They were already struggling, but they won't tell you because China's got to be big, tough leader of the world while they lie and steal everybody's intellectual property and don't abide by the rules of the World Trade Organization, even though they've been allowed in by the benevolence of the other members of the World Trade Organization. And can you believe this is how some of our leaders thought that we were going to combat communism? Other countries will step up, and trillions in new investment are flowing into America, while countless factories leave China. Will this affect U.S. consumers? Well, I think we're feeling it already. Things sure do seem expensive, don't they? You might struggle to find cheap plastic junk for a few months, he writes. Yeah, oh no. Oh, the humanity. We're going to have to suck it up, people. Things are going to have to be a little bit expensive for a while. I canceled my HBO Max subscription. It's been really rough. Can't watch South Park anymore. I got to try to find clips on YouTube. I don't pay for YouTube either. What are we down to now? I think we got Disney, Paramount, and Netflix. And the only reason we have Paramount is because we were subscribed to an independent organization, I suppose, called Noggin that did educational TV shows and games that the kids could watch and play on their tablets. They were purchased by Paramount, and we were just automatically signed up for that at $14 a month or whatever. Most of it's for the kids. And if it were my decision, we would cancel all of it and just watch Pluto. which is free. Pluto TV, you've seen that? It's basic. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy that we paid $70 a month for cable for as many years as we paid for cable. And now Pluto TV exists, and it's basically cable for free. And this is what happens when we vote with our wallets. We asked the cable companies, and I've told the story before, and I remember my grandma complaining about it all the time. She wanted the Sci-Fi Channel. And she was on a fixed income. But if she wanted the Sci-Fi Network, she had to pay for this big bloated cable package with a bunch of crap that she didn't want just so that she could get the one channel that she did want. Boy, it sounds like a really familiar corporate strategy, doesn't it? Then Netflix came out. And it was, oh, wow, I can get all of these shows that I want to watch. And I only have to pay this small, I have to pay 10% of the fee for Netflix that I had to pay for cable. And now cable is hurting. Like, who has cable anymore? If you have cable, you need to cut that shit and get with the program. The only thing, I mean, I understand the cable still exists because people want to watch their sports. And I do miss watching sports from time to time. But now sports is even following in the footsteps of streaming platforms. Because now I think you can watch football on Amazon, boxing on Netflix, hockey on, I think hockey was on Peacock. I don't have Peacock anymore either. But it's amazing how the market will adjust to corporate tyranny, as it has, especially in the gaming community. And it's never made me prouder to be a gamer, to see how these massive corporations eat tremendous losses because they thought that they could hoodwink the gaming community, and the gaming community doesn't forget. And then this is one of the reasons that they want to control the internet. Because we can get on there and talk about all the bullshit that these evil corporations are pulling on us. And we can decide, hey, we don't like what Bud Light's doing. Everybody stop buying Bud Light. And everybody stops buying Bud Light. And they go, oh no, we're in big trouble. What did we do? So people think that wokeness is failing, but I don't agree. I don't know. The Pope died, right? The Pope, the woke Pope Francis. People called him the woke Pope. So I had to find out. Oh, but then, then I screwed up my stream and closed the window that asked Grok, what are some of the things Pope Francis did to be considered the woke Pope? I mean, and it makes sense, especially like we're on this evil corporation jag. It makes a lot of sense. But first, Pope Francis, according to Grok, has been labeled the woke Pope by some due to actions and statements that align with progressive or inclusive values, often breaking from traditional Catholic stances. Below are key examples drawn from various sources that contribute to this perception, presented with context to reflect both support and criticism. Check out the stream on Twitch, X, or YouTube to follow along. First item, LGBTQ plus inclusion. Statements on homosexuality in 2013, Francis famously said, "If someone is gay and he searches for the Lord and has goodwill, who am I to judge?" This marked a shift from the more condemnatory tone of predecessors like Pope Benedict the 16th, who called homosexuality an intrinsic moral evil. Blessings for same-sex couples. In December 2023, Francis approved a document allowing priests to bless same-sex couples on a case-by-case basis, a significant departure from the Vatican's 2021 stance against such blessings. What happened in 2021? That's something to think about. Welcoming transgender individuals. In 2023, Francis announced that transgender individuals could be baptized and serve as godparents. He also met with transgender women at the Vatican, reinforcing a message of inclusivity. Personal gestures. Francis reportedly told a gay abuse survivor, Juan Carlos Cruz, in 2018, "God made you like this and loves you." A compassionate stance that, while not officially confirmed, resonated widely. Critics argue this aligns with church teachings that homosexual orientation isn't sinful, but actions are, creating a contradictory stance. Why would they do that? Environmental advocacy. Francis issued a landmark encyclical calling environmental destruction a sin and urging action on climate change, aligning with global progressive movements. He linked ecological issues to social justice, criticizing consumerism and inequality. Ethical investing guidelines. In 2022, the Vatican under Francis promoted ethical investing, prioritizing environmental protection and support for migrants. Contrasting with critics like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who called such practices woke capitalism. Criticism of pet ownership, really? In 2023, Francis decried pet ownership as selfishness, urging focus on human welfare and environmental stewardship, a stance some saw as aligning with progressive priorities over traditional family values. And the list goes on and on and on. But why would the Pope deviate? Why would he deviate from these traditionally held Catholic and Christian beliefs? Well, who finances the church? Where do you think the church gets the most of its money from? Furthermore, how many people have stopped going to church? How many people have kind of recognized organized religion for the scam that it is? Apologies to those of you that are involved in organized religion. I don't think it's all bad, but I think a lot of it is bad. I think a lot of it is an instrument of control geared toward siphoning your wealth away from you in the name of tithes and offerings. Therefore, it would make sense from a business standpoint that a church would cultivate its message to attract as many churchgoers as possible. And the wealthier, the better. So we see Pope Francis making all these moves in 2020 and 2021. And we see messages, we see the videos from cardinals and bishops. We covered that one whack job bishop, I believe she was chastising Donald Trump for some of his America First policies. Because they got a signal. They got a signal to the world that they're on the team. They know further that Donald Trump wouldn't dare revoke their tax exempt status, but would a leftist? You bet your ass. Because that's what leftists do. They use their power like a weapon. They're not to be trusted. And that's what we've learned about these judges this week. Probably the most exciting thing that happened in the news this week was the FBI arrested a New Mexico judge, Juan Cano, and his wife for harboring a Tren de Aragua gang member, allegedly. It's crazy stuff. Here you can see the video of them standing there in handcuffs. But let's read a little more about what happened. The headline from Fox News: New Mexico Supreme Court bans judge after alleged TDA, that's Tren de Aragua, member arrested at home. Oh, give me a break. It's gonna make it's making me put my email in here. All right, let's see. Let's see if I can use the one that goes nowhere. That's the one that you'll see popping up. Oh, they're gonna try to send me a link. Those rat bastards. I got it on my phone. I guess we'll just do that, huh? Unbelievable. The former New Mexico judge who resigned last month after an alleged Tren de Aragua member was arrested at his home can never serve on a bench in the state again. Good. That's how it should be. I'm trying to share the other screen so you got something to look at. There we go. Oh, and now it's not going to make me. Oh, so stupid. The court was scheduled to hear oral arguments on disciplinary cases this Thursday, but the argument has been vacated now that the cases have been resolved. And by resolved, they mean because they just kicked his ass out. Well, he resigned. And there's actually a good bit from this article here about what was in his resignation. Apparently, this guy was allowing like up to 3 different alleged members of Tren de Aragua. Cano served on the bench since 2011. He just resigned last month before the state Supreme Court decided to ban him from holding judicial office. This is from KOB4. In his resignation letter from March, Cano doesn't give a reason for resigning, but court documents show the letter came just days after Homeland Security raided his Las Cruces home. A search warrant inventory list showed that the federal agents seized several items from Cano's house, including 6 phones, miscellaneous documents, and laptops. The search warrant itself revealed the investigation has been in the works for months after the federal agents received an anonymous tip in January. The source claimed 3 undocumented Venezuelans were staying in Judge Cano's home, were working for his family, and were given access to firearms. Those suspects are, who cares about their names? The tipster also told the federal agents that the men were associated with the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, or TDA. Per an executive order from President Donald Trump, the transnational crime organization is also considered by the U.S. to be a foreign terrorist organization. According to court documents, law enforcement was able to verify everything the tipster told them through social media. Evidence showed both Ortega Lopez and Montilla Castillo posted photos of themselves with Judge Cano, his wife, and his daughter. So these weren't just the gardeners. And they were living, I guess it's being alleged, they were living in Mrs. Cano's casita. The court documents also revealed a lot about Ortega Lopez, including that he reportedly said he came to the U.S. illegally in 2023 after climbing a barbed wire fence in Texas. He was released a few days later. In April 2024, Ortega Lopez filed a request for immigration relief. He also allegedly admitted he knew having firearms was illegal. Whoops. I mean, who were these guys? And who was this judge? The 3 Venezuelan terrorists were staying at his house with his wife and daughter and had access to their guns. Of course, he denies that there was anything inappropriate going on. The judge denies that he knew they were gang members. Do you believe him? So he's going down. And of course, the left is losing their mind. Now here I have from Maze on X, at Maze Moore. the side-by-side video of Andy Weissman, corrupt Democrat lawyer, talking about how justice is served when Trump is arrested and how justice is served when a judge is arrested.
He is being treated no better or worse than anyone else. This is not selective prosecution, that this is not somebody who's singled out, that he is being treated just like anyone else. That is what it means to have a rule of law. That is what the Justice Department is really signaling and messaging here, is that everyone will be treated, as Merrick Garland has said, as equally in this country. This is really a great day for America.
That's what he had to say when Trump was arrested.
So there has been a violation here that we know for sure, and it is not the judge. Right, exactly. You don't do it. Even if you thought that there was a ground for doing this, the judgment call that you thought that this is the case to bring, it tells you everything. There is no adult in the room who would have said, "Are you kidding me? Why would you possibly do this?" And the answer is because we want to send a signal to the judiciary. And that's what you shouldn't be doing.
Why not? Why shouldn't you be sending a signal to the judiciary? The Supreme Court has already ruled that they are way out of bounds. They're creating these universal injunctions that are completely illegal, that they have no business creating. Why shouldn't we be going after them? Why allow them to harbor terrorists? That's what was happening. But no big deal. We shouldn't hold crazy leftists accountable for facilitating the decay of our culture. But when Donald Trump steps in to try to do something good, we should definitely go after him with every ounce of power the American government can muster. And they really thought that they weren't going to lose. They thought that they were going to win, and they were going to keep winning, and they were going to be allowed to continue breaking the law. There's Donald Trump's mugshot with a matching mugshot from Hannah Dugan, the latest judge to be arrested most recently for obstructing ICE. And listen to what Pam Bondi says here.
And to set the stage for you and Sandra, this was truly horrific. This guy was in court being prosecuted by a state prosecutor for domestic violence battery. He had beat up two people, a guy and a girl, hit the guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. And John, it's so rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out of private exit and tells them to leave, while a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
She lets the guy go. And immigration officers have to chase him down the streets, which they do. And they apprehended him. And then they arrested the judge. And this is how she felt about it. What did she think she was doing? What did she think she was going to get away with? And how much did she stand to gain from behaving this way? This is a random judge from New Mexico. What was she getting? I want to find out more. I want to know more about this lady. I want to know how powerful she was. I want to know where her money was coming from. I want an audit of her bank accounts. From the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan charged with 2 felonies in ICE case. Hannah Dugan was charged April 25th with 2 felonies on allegations of trying to help an undocumented immigrant avoid arrest after he appeared in her courtroom. According to a 13-page complaint, Dugan, 65, is accused of obstructing a U.S. agency and concealing an individual to prevent an arrest. The 2 charges carry a maximum penalty of 6 years in prison and a $350,000 fine, but sentences in cases involving nonviolent offenses typically are much shorter. Oh, good. Oh, good. I really hope we can be gracious with her. Give me a break. While people that didn't even do anything rotted in prison for years after January 6th. It's the fundamental difference between the left and the right. The left wants to ruin you. The right wants to be fair. And I guess good on them. I like this message. I like this message that we're sending to the judiciary. Andy Weissman. This is what I voted for. I voted for accountability and arrests, and I want more of them. Klaus Schwab resigned. He retired. Allegedly, we covered it last week, I think maybe the week before. He's done working for the World Economic Forum, and of course it was presented as nothing but benevolence. But then this story appeared. And pay no attention to these AI-generated photos here. This is not what happened. Klaus Schwab was not escorted out of the World Economic Forum offices. George Christensen writes on X, he is at First Oust, A-U-S-T, at Nation First Oust. Why was Klaus Schwab, the godfather of globalism, pushed out of the World Economic Forum after 55 years in charge? Wait a minute. Is that what we heard? We hear he was pushed out? Here's what they exposed and why it matters. Schwab didn't step down because he was tired. He was forced out after an explosive internal letter from World Economic Forum employees, WEF employees, exposed years of corruption, luxury, and lies inside the forum. Are we really surprised? I mean, we know how these people behave. They all fly in their private jets, they live in their lives of luxury, and then they get together and tell us all about how terrible we are for doing that. About how we need to stop. We need to stop our consuming so that they can continue to consume at the levels they've become accustomed to and at the levels they feel that they deserve. The letter claimed Schwab treated WEF like his own empire. He sent junior staff to withdraw thousands in cash, billed hotel massages to donors, took luxury holidays disguised as business. He and his wife allegedly turned a $50 million WEF-owned villa into their private retreat, bought and renovated with donor money, sold to the world as a conference center. This is the same man who told you to eat bugs, ditch your car, and own nothing and be happy. Gee, what does that sound like? While he lived like royalty on money meant to save the world. He called COVID a rare but narrow window to reshape society. And he used it to push for lockdowns, digital ID, central banks, and stronger global government. They all did this, all of the evil people, all of the world's supervillains. Because they were all in on it, is my opinion. And the further we get away from the pandemic, I hope the more we will learn that this was the case. Schwab pushed a plan called the Great Reset. He said it would transform everything: your job, your home, your privacy, even who you are as a human being. You think all of this is just a conspiracy theory? He writes. Schwab openly wrote about it in his books. And wait until you hear what else he pushed. He wrote about implantable microchips. He said AI and tech would change not only what we do, but who we are. And he wasn't joking about any of this. The WEF board wasn't joking either when they held an emergency meeting on Easter Sunday. Within hours, Schwab was gone. No thanks, no parade, no goodbye. Just a resignation effective immediately. Boy, that's not how it was sold to us, was it? This news is being buried by the mainstream media. Let's be clear, he writes. This wasn't just the fall of a man. It was a crack in the entire system. The illusion of Davos invincibility is breaking. He built a network of unelected billionaires, tech barons, and politicians who shaped the world policy without votes, debate, or consent. And now that empire is rattled. I don't know if you've ever looked up the guest list to Davos and to these World Economic Forum events. It's CEOs, it's political leaders, it's everyone in charge. And the fact that it's the CEOs of all of the massive corporations brought there to be told how to operate their businesses should indicate to you where the real power is. George Christensen continues. Of course, the re-election of Donald Trump as POTUS has upended their agenda, as have the elections of Giorgia Meloni, Javier Milei, and Viktor Orban, and the rise of populist movements through Europe and elsewhere. Yeah, right? The UK just decided, they voted that a woman is a woman and shouldn't be allowed to compete in men's sports or something like that. Of course, this is the kind of thing that happens when the people have a voice. And this is why judges want to stop voter integrity laws that are advocated by Donald Trump. From Fox News, judge blocks Trump election order despite overwhelming American support for voter ID. A federal judge in Washington, D.C. blocked a portion of President Donald Trump's executive order on election integrity that is popular among Americans, according to a Gallup poll. The portion of the order that Judge Colleen Kolar-Kotelly, geez, quite a name, of the U.S. District Court. I wonder, what do you think? How do you think it pencils out in terms of politics? Women who have hyphenated last names versus women that don't have hyphenated last names. Where do you think their politics fall? We'll cover that on the next one. less than 2 weeks before the 2024 election, Gallup found that 84% of U.S. adults were in favor of requiring voters to show identification, and 83% supported requiring proof of citizenship when registering for the first time. When broken down by party, 67% of Democrats, 84% of independents, and 98% of Republicans were in favor of mandating voter ID. The party breakdown over proof of citizenship was similar, with 66% of Democrats, 84% of independents, and 96% of Republicans supporting the idea. Overwhelming majorities! Overwhelming majorities in all major political parties. Yet this judge has blocked him. Based on what? What does she have to say? Kolar-Kotelly, however, argued that Trump did not have the authority to issue such an order, as the Constitution delegates control of election regulations to Congress and states. This is a quote, consistent with that allocation of power, Congress is currently debating legislation that would affect many of the changes the president purports to order. End quote. Caller Catelli, a Clinton appointee, wrote in her order. Quote, no statutory delegation of authority to the executive branch permits the president to short-circuit Congress's deliberative process by executive order. Earlier this month, the House passed the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, which would require states to obtain proof of citizenship for those registering to vote in a federal election. Additionally, the act mandates that all non-citizens be removed from voter rolls. The Senate still needs to pass the measure before it can reach Trump's desk. Rep. Chip Roy, Republican from Texas, who sponsored the bill in the House, wrote, in order to preserve this republic, we must uphold what it means to be able to vote in a U.S. election. I am grateful that my colleagues answered the call and passed the SAVE Act, as this serves as a critical first step to ensure that we maintain election integrity throughout our country. So far, in 2025, 5 states have enacted voter ID requirements, and 1 has mandated proof of citizenship for registration, according to Voting Rights Lab. Additionally, 25 states are considering bills that would mandate proof of citizenship, while 40 are mulling legislation requiring voter ID. Even if it passes the Senate and is signed by Donald Trump, judges like this will still come out and attempt to block it. I asked Grok which 5 states were referenced in that article. The answer was, in 2025, several states have either passed new voter ID laws or tightened existing ones based on available information. Here's a concise overview. Wisconsin. Voters approved a constitutional amendment on April 1st, 2025, strengthening the state's existing voter ID requirements. Wyoming enacted a law requiring proof of U.S. citizenship and residency for voter registration, effective in 2025, making it the first state to implement such a requirement. West Virginia. Posts on X indicate that West Virginia passed new voter ID legislation in 2025, though specific details about the law's provisions are not fully outlined in the provided sources. Yeah, West Virginia's kind of podunk. Kansas, North Dakota, Arkansas, Iowa have all done things to strengthen their voter laws. However, from what I see, it's many red and purple states, and this really shouldn't be a partisan issue. I think it's only a partisan issue because one side wants to cheat, and that's the side that has control of the cultural narrative for the most part. Because the oligarchy wants to install the politicians who will appoint the judges, who apparently think that they're beyond reproach, and who will rule in their favor, and often against the best interests of the people who elected the politicians to begin with. And I think it's becoming clear that many of these judges serve the elites. I wonder what's on the hook for them. I mean, why would you do something so crazy? Like, are they threatening their families? Is that why that these 3 terrorists were living with Juan Cano and his wife and daughter with access to their firearms, allegedly? I mean, what kind of arrangement was that? Hey, look, Judge, we bought these guns. If anybody asks, they belong to you. Got it? Is that far-fetched? Is that hard to believe? And how many more corrupt judges are we going to discover? And it's no better on the Supreme Court either, as we've covered many times. Amy Coney Barrett is clearly on the take or at the end of a rifle. She's standing on the end of the plank off the pirate ship. John Roberts is more of a Democrat than he is a Republican, it seems. When the good judges dissent, you know that there's something wrong in the judiciary. And Clarence Thomas and Neil Gorsuch are squawking about how ridiculous the majority consensus is from the Supreme Court. You know, the rulings aren't exactly lawful. But really, I think they're just trying to trick us into packing the court. Like, remember a few years ago, the conversation was around John Roberts was, oh, he's afraid. This was, of course, during the Biden administration. He's afraid that the court will become too involved and public support will mandate more justices on the Supreme Court. I think that's what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to trick us into packing the court. So what's going to happen on Donald Trump legislation, on Republican legislation? The Supreme Court will rule against the will of the people, according to the results of the election. The people elected Republicans this time, so the court will have to rule more left on the issues before it. When the public elected a Democrat in the previous administration, allegedly, they had to rule more to the right of things to create public pressure to pack the court. Adding Supreme Court judges, diluting the power demographics. I say cut the courts. I say bring it down to 3. Okay, maybe not 3. Yeah, go the other way. Get rid of them. Get rid of these scumbags that are on the take for Tren de Aragua and ISIS and God knows who else. I think we should all be very thankful that these things are being exposed. Because ultimately the power lies with us, right? We got to take it to the corporations. Because we're the ones that aren't in the pocket of the corporations. We got to take it to the politicians. Because they're the ones that are doing the bidding of the global elite. We got to take it to the judges. We're not going to have Donald Trump around to babysit us on this all the time. He's got 3 more years. I mean, I guess it is only almost May. But there's still a lot of work left to do. I don't know who it's going to be in 2028. Do you? Is it going to be J.D. Vance? It's going to look a lot different. Oh, geez, look, I'm just showing you ads. Nice. It's going to have to be us. We got to pay more attention. We got to figure out what's going on. We got to talk to each other. We got to hold the media outlets accountable. We got a long road ahead. We're going to have to deal with some hardships. Because what is it they say? Weak men create hard times. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. And good times create weak men. We've become weak men. Now we're going to have to suck it up and start holding people accountable. Start holding the people accountable who have perpetuated the decay and the destruction of the last free society in the world. We're it. And that's why we're under attack. That's why it feels like us against the world. But right now, we have someone who at least appears to greatly support us, and we need to capitalize. And you can start by sharing this podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I do hope you share this podcast, and I hope that you will subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And while you're there, please leave me a 5-star rate and review. And share the show as much as you can. It's really my only hope for growth at this point. We know the corporate world is against us, all of us, and especially those that are trying to make an impact on the culture. So thank you very much for joining me. You can also follow me on X at earthvox. Head over to my YouTube channel. It's earthvox on Twitch as well. Give me a follow there. Leave me a voicemail at 701-787-1121. And you can also send me an email to the real earthvox at protonmail.com. I'll be back.